Welcome into his frequency. Enter at your own risk. Come be at peace with me. Ask the Paul, where we rise and don't fall.
Welcome back to another episode of Baxter's Buzz. I am your host, Baxter E. Hall. Welcome to my brain. Welcome to my frequency. Enter at your own risk. Speaking of entering at your own risk, this is someone who has become a really close friend of mine who shares a frequency of mine, which you can take that for what it's worth.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
She is an author, a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. Her new book, Dreaming in Color, an Allyship Journey, it is available right now. Erin Dewsbury-Ribeiro. Did I nail it?
Very good. Nailed it.
All right. Make sure you let the hubby know.
Yep.
Welcome to Baxter's Buzz, friend.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here.
No, I am incredibly honored. The book, we'll spend a lot of time talking about the book, but
yeah,
just thank you for the work that you do. A true ally. You know, when I explain, when I try to describe my new friend to folks, and it's important to me that people sort of understand that the space that they hold. And as we were talking off mic, it's not necessarily a responsibility, but this is a choice that you've made.
Yeah.
And so thank you for being a great ally to all people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to interject, but I'll wait.
And so
I'm going to quiet myself.
Anybody that knows either of us knows that we are all over the place. So let's just keep it very organic. But
perfect.
The allyship journey, like, talk about why the book was so important, and why was it important for you to sort of document the your journey in this way.
Yeah. So what I was going to interject was what I learned along the way when it came to the word ally or allyship, which not everybody knows. When I talk to people about the book, sometimes I kind of see this curiosity or this question when I say the word allyship. And in the space that I'm in diversity, equity, inclusion, it's, common, and most of the people that I interact with know what that means. And so I do talk about it in the book, like let's level set. What is it? And so I learned that dictionary.com defines ally as a person who advocates for or supports marginalized or politicized group, but is not a member of the group. And I think that's the important thing, right? I'm not part of the demographic of who I'm hoping to support. But I also learned along the way that I don't get to deem myself an ally. I think that came from Ben and Jerry's. There was an allyship guide that Ben and Jerry's put out back in 2020 or so. And I thought that was a really interesting distinction. You can't go around saying like, oh, I'm an ally. And so it's something that's gifted upon you.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that was something, I had to do the work. I had to, make my intentions clear and known. And then maybe I got that gift from somebody. And so what I started with is during 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, I was doing book discussions in my organization, and another white woman came to me from HR and said, and I talk about her in the book, her name is Bonnie Sherwitz. She came to me and said, I want to do something, but I'm scared and I don't know if we should do it. But if I'm doing it with anybody, I'm doing it with you, because we had talked about leading up. We had been reading things like, so you want to talk about race and white fragility was another one we had read. And so we were kind of talking books offline. And she said, I think we should do this. And we wanted to do an anti-racism and allyship book discussion or topic discussion. And what happened was I went to my boss at the time. I said, is this an ask for permission or ask for forgiveness if it goes sideways? And she said, no, you should do this. 100%. You should do this. And we have a resource group at work called African Ancestry. We didn't want to get them involved in the beginning because if it did go sideways, we didn't want to take them and their brand down with us, right?
Sure.
And so we did this. We had to have 10 sessions because it was so popular and needed. We had about 10 people per session. African Ancestry got involved about the halfway point, and they would join and listen to the messaging and everything. And we created this space where people didn't have to say anything. We made it very clear. You introduce yourself in the beginning, you give where you're from within the organization. What do you hope to get out of this conversation? And at the end of it, we said, we will not call on anybody. We will not call out anybody. You do what you want with this. And I know there was one woman, Angela Mitchell, who I also name in the book. She's a very dear friend of mine now. I had never met her before, a Black woman from down south, and she said she was skeptical. She said, I'm not gonna say anything. And at the end of the call, she started sharing some of her stories and experiences. And that was really powerful. I think that a space had been created where people could hear, because you hear as a white person, I had heard stories, I had read stories from the outside, but to hear it from people that you work with in your organization, it hits different.
Sure.
Right. And so that was very powerful change for me in my desire to get involved, my need to get involved. And so from that point on, I became part of African Ancestry on the steering committee as the only, I don't even say the only white person, I was the only non-Black person on the steering committee. And I think that was something that was really powerful of, to be white in America, we are not typically the only or the other in the room, the proverbial room, the room or the space, right? I see myself represented everywhere. I'm in media, I'm in shows, I'm in movies, I'm in books. I see myself represented at work, at the executive level, everything. So to be the only is a different experience for my race. And so, but what I realized is, as I was reflecting back, I had done this quite often throughout my life, and I didn't realize that at the time. My next door neighbor was Hispanic, and so I was with her and her family all the time. I studied Japanese, and so I was in Japan in a very small town with very few other foreigners. So I had done this, but I didn't realize I had intentionally done this. And I think I did it because my upbringing where I grew up was very homogenous. It was, I don't know, 92% white, right? So my high school was everybody looked like me for the most part. And I never liked it.
Yeah.
Honestly. So that shaped me. So then from that point on, then I was asked to be the vice president of African Ancestry, which I was very humbled by my dear friend Nicole, that I talk about very heavily in the book. Honored me with that. And it changed my whole life. It changed my career trajectory. Now I'm the DEI officer. It was life-changing for me, and I give them credit. And I'm very thankful to them and verbally appreciative to them for that welcoming that they gave me. They showed me what inclusion and belonging should be and should feel like to the people that are receiving that, and it was life-changing.
What part about it was life-changing for you? Like what it, because it wasn't just the fact that you were part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like what was it, or can you articulate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think growing up close to Detroit. I spent a lot of time in Detroit, and I worked in Detroit in high school. I worked at a Chinese restaurant in Detroit. So I was around Black people, Black culture, and I always thought to myself, "Oh, I appreciate Black people. I appreciate Black culture." But what I realized on the journey is I didn't know anything about Black history, true Black experience. And so as I started learning, that was very eye-opening that I thought I knew, and I frankly did not know anything. Like I didn't know what Juneteenth was. I didn't know Black Wall Street. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So I started going back and learning. But then what was interesting along the journey is I started a Instagram page called Let's Read Diversely because I read a lot. And so I started looking at the content of the books that I read, and in the beginning it was like 90% white,
Mm.
right? A lot of white authors. And so I made this intention, and I think that's the key, right? Having intention and purpose to what you're doing, because your brain likes what's similar to you,
Mhm.
right? So if you let it
It's
default,
easy. It's
you'll
lazy that
surround,
way. Yeah.
yeah, you'll surround yourself with people that are like you. You'll look into information that's like you. Your Instagram page will be people that are like you. And so I started this page called Let's Read Diversely and started intentionally looking for different authors to read, different input. Started very heavily with Black authors because that was my area of focus. But then I say the I think people are freaked out by AI. You know, you say something in your phone or around your phone, and then it's like, oh, those Nikes, yeah, here they are, or, you know, whatever. Right. It freaks people out. But what I found to be true for my situation was it picked up on my desire to diversify. So, as an example, I was following a lot of Black Instagrammers, Black influencers. And so then it would make recommendations to me. So it said, how about this Black deaf dancer or this Black deaf rapper? And in my mind, I'm thinking, what? That's possible?
Yeah.
And so I now follow Shaheem and Wawa from Wawa's World. And then it started feeding me more information about the deaf and hard of hearing community. And so now I follow a whole bunch of people who are part of that community. I learned how hearing parents will interact with their hard of hearing or deaf
Mm.
children when they're have their if they have cochlear implants, when they take them off or take a hearing break. All this stuff I learned. YouTube started feeding me ASL, American Sign Language 101 videos, so I started doing some of that. Right. So if it was like pulling the thread of a sweater, so then it expanded, expanded, expanded. That's why I say it was pivotal and life changing because I expanded the scope of my knowledge and my circle of influence very significantly, which doesn't always happen unless you are purposeful.
Yeah. The intention. I mean,
Hmm.
uh, somebody that who I know a little bit, but I respect their messages on social media
Hmm.
and the work that they do. They said something that was um it seemed much more cynical than they
Mm.
had ever been. And they talked
Yeah.
about words that they were tired of. They talked about like community and
Mm.
collaboration. And I was just like I was just like I didn't hold it against them. I just
Yeah.
and intention is another one of those words that we hear
Yeah.
a lot,
Hmm.
and maybe I'm giving them more credit than they deserve. But I want to think that what they were tired of was the words without the action behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I, that speaks to me. That speaks to me.
I, when people hear diversity or DEI,
Hmm.
they think about Black people.
And gender, it's race and gender in the
Hmm.
US. That's the big focus, right? And it's so much more complex and nuanced and deeper than that.
You just talked about spending time in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
working in a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
You've talked about the deaf and hard of hearing community. Um, you when you think about we were off mic talking about people growing up in different parts of the world
Yeah.
and their struggles,
Mm-hmm.
and their sort of quest to help kind of change their lives and their families' lives.
Yeah.
These are all this is all diversity. This
100%.
is all
100%.
diversity.
Yeah.
Diversity isn't just um listening to a certain, a certain type of music, or I mean it
Mm-hmm.
can go much deeper. And
Yeah.
you talked about the AI piece. You have a chapter
Mm-hmm.
that speaks about curiosity.
Yeah.
Um, you talk about AI.
Yeah.
Um, are there How else have you leveraged AI, or how else would you recommend folks leverage these sort of artificial intelligence sort of machines to improve upon their knowledge base?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question. I think when I think about how my viewpoint changed, or it's interesting because I just started a new Instagram channel called Dreaming in Color, the book, for the book. And the AI hasn't I haven't trained the AI yet, right? So if you look at, and I'm working on it, and I'm working on like following the people that I followed from Let's Read Diversely, and getting that going, and I see it shifting. But when I look at, when you press the search on Instagram and it'll just bring up like recommendations for you, some people that you follow already and whatever. If you look at that from Let's Read Diversely, that's been trained for years now, and you look at the one from that I just started, maybe, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I noticed a huge difference,
Mm,
right? And so what you put into it, you will get out. And so if you keep clicking on, the people that look like you, the people seem like you, everything like that, the AI is going to say, "Oh, great, that's what you like. I'll give you more of that. I'll feed you that all day long."
mm,
Right? So if there is something in your feed that's different, click on it.
yeah,
Click on it and see what it's all about, because that will change the algorithm for what you're looking
yeah.
for. And it's true for, I found it happening on Netflix as an example, or like
Mhm.
streaming services, where I was watching things like Abbott Elementary and some other shows that are predominantly Black characters. Then what that is feeding you as recommendations changes also, right? And I thought that was fascinating to see.
Well, I was gonna say before you said it, the algorithm, people don't think about that as AI, right?
Yes.
AI can, um, it could be a bad word in some spaces now because because it means so many different things.
Yeah.
Um, I have a friend who's like very, very aware of like his algorithm, and he,
Mhm.
trains it a certain way. And he's like, recently, man, I hate when people send me certain stuff because I have to click on it, and then
And
it
the
kind of messes
algorithm is
up.
picking up for you.
Yeah, and I was thinking, dang, he's probably talking about me because I have a number of interests, and sometimes it's just silliness, and but the comfort that you talk about, just seeing the same things,
Mhm.
we find ourselves in these echo chambers
Yes. Great
of
word.
everybody's just kind of saying the same things, and yeah, of
Mhm.
course, this person's brilliant, and then this person's brilliant too, and they're all saying things that have said
Yeah.
or believe in. It can be really comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, our
space.
brain loves that. It's
Hmm.
the safe space that it loves. And
Yeah.
I think that was part of the journey was I grew up, well, I'm from Michigan. I think Michiganders and Midwesterners in particular are quite conflict averse, I'll say. I mean, I
Mm.
think that's a fair statement compared to some other parts of the US, the United States, but also compared to different cultures we are. And my family was definitely part of that culture in Michigan. And so I ran from conflict like the plague. I hated conflictual conversations. I hated that stuff. And what I realized is when I was just following people that are like me or have are like-minded like me and things like that, part of it was it feels good because there's not conflict. You're all in harmony and you're all aligned, but that's not where growth comes from.
Right.
And that's not where I'll speak for myself specifically. That's not where I got better. So I got much more comfortable with conflict and conflict. I learned conflict isn't bad, right? Sometimes conflict is needed to come together in the end to come to a solution. And so that was a hard journey for me because it felt very icky. But I feel I've grown and I'm a better human because of it. And so now, one of the things that I thought was really interesting is when I'm trying to find somebody in my organization to be a like a diversity, equity, inclusion ambassador. I had a conversation with one person who isn't aligned with me on everything, right? They have different thoughts than I do on certain topics. And at one point they said, "Do you even want me to do this?" And I said, "What kind of how inclusionary would I be if I said no because you're not a carbon copy of me and my thoughts and
Yeah.
my feelings about things?" I said, "No, we need to have all the different perspectives. There
Yeah.
are people that are aligned with them in their thinking, and having them in the organization to talk about that and be talking about the diversity of thought and diversity of perspective is critical."
Okay. Okay. I gotta jump in because I got a couple things, and I don't
Yes.
want to lose them. First, um, the people that aren't, I gravitate towards people who challenge me in different
Mhm.
areas.
Mm.
Where there's, I think, fundamentally that we're similar, but then we have different points of view.
So the
Um,
values, are you saying maybe your values are similar but
yeah,
different perspective
yeah,
on different things? Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a accurate way
Okay.
to say that. If people don't have that natural, I mean, I had a conversation with my daughter recently. Told you another part of it when she was kind of on my nerves and I was on her nerves.
Yeah.
And I told her, and I've always told her this, but as she's getting older, I'm like, conflict doesn't have to be a bad thing. You have to
Mm-mm.
hear things that you don't want to hear. You
Yes.
want to say it in a respectful manner. You want people to speak their piece in a respectful manner, but that's how you get
Mhm.
better. You don't get
Yeah.
better by just avoidance. How would you suggest someone get better at seeking out different opinions?
Mhm.
And then also, how do you suggest folks get better with kind of just dealing with conflict overall?
Mm. I think the part that shifted for me is dropping my assumptions about people and approaching the situation with curiosity to really hear their viewpoint. Because I would go into a conversation or a situation and think this person looks like this. They must believe in this or think this.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned, and maybe they do, maybe, right? Maybe my assumption is correct, but not going into the conversation with that as a starting point and approaching it with curiosity and really tempering that judgment that I had, right, for it. And that allows them to tell their story. And sometimes that, I'll be honest, there are certain times, especially in this climate right now we're in the US, that is very hard for me
Yeah.
sometimes. And I think that has been seeing, I feel like you can make a connection with anybody. And that is something that I have had to set myself aside to hear them, to find that thing that we do have in common, because I know we have something in common. And then you can build on that.
Yeah. So okay, so this was my other question that I was hoping I didn't forget, but you kind of set me up for it.
You're welcome.
It's like we've done this before. How much space do you give to someone who you don't feel like your values align?
Mm,
You
yeah,
you talked about social media and kind of training your algorithm.
hmm,
Um, there's a lot of really extreme political views,
yeah.
um, where it feels like so much of almost it feels like almost everything is politicized these days. And if
I've heard that a
and
lot.
if you are on one side of one thing,
Hmm.
then disagreeing with something on that side that you're it's like people will just kind of double down on and dig in their heels
Yeah.
on things that and it's like I don't necessarily know how to have a conversation with certain people if
Hmm.
certain values aren't aligned, you know?
I I completely understand that because I've had to put some feelings aside for people that I work with on a regular basis, knowing things that I know. How do I still work with them? How do I still, and I think it comes down to knowing there are certain people that I think I'm trying to say this so precisely. There I think there are the people that there's never going to be a common ground, or there's never going to be, you're so far misaligned. And I feel like at this moment, putting effort into trying to bring them over to a middle point or bring them over, I feel like it's respecting them as a human, full stop, yes. But coming to a getting them to come to an understanding with you, I think is there's not a lot of possibility sometimes, and accepting that and saying, okay. But I think what I find hope in, and I talk about this in the book because I think the work that I do can feel very overwhelming. And am I really making progress and everything? And I just always fall back on my strengths, number one, which are positivity, empathy from Gallup, Clifton Strengths. I'm a certified coach, and I always fall back on those things. And positivity is one that I've been falling back on a lot over this year, especially. If I have a good conversation with somebody, and either if it's somebody that is struggling and I help them to feel seen, heard, and valued, or it shifts their day or their week or whatever, I will fly high on that for the day, the week, the month,
Yeah.
right? So even though it's one person, I feel like that ripple effect
Yeah.
happens, but also I'm able to go, that makes me want to like keep doing it for that next person. And excuse me, there was somebody who asked me, had I ever thought to give up on the
Mm.
work that I do because it's too hard. And I said, I have, as a white woman, I have the luxury to not do it. And for that reason alone, because there are people that don't look like me that don't have that luxury because it's lived and you're in it. For that reason, I keep going because I could stop and I don't want to. I want to do this. That's why I say what happened with African ancestry changed my life trajectory, changed my work and career trajectory because I want to do this work until I stop taking breaths on this earth because it's so important to do that. And so I think I've put effort into maybe the people that are closer to the middle or that I do see value alignment, like
Yeah.
to the heart of it, focus on supporting them and coming to support them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the folks that you feel like um you can potentially um get them to see a different point of view,
Yeah, or I mean,
or that at least is accepting of a different point of view.
I think that's it. And I had to check myself because I think I was guilty of that as well, where I said what I believe is it. And now I'm with some help from some people I love and care about and have had difficult conversations with me. I realize that's that way of thinking for me as the diversity equity inclusion officer was quite exclusionary.
Well, you know, sometimes people are so extreme, you don't even know how to deal with them, right? And
Mhm.
you feel like, well, you have to dig in because they're digging in,
Right.
and then yeah, you don't you become the thing that you were upset about,
Mhm.
you know, without even knowing it.
Yeah.
Here, tell me, was there a particular chapter that stands out to you, whether it was like where you learned the most
Mm.
from, or there was you like these aha moments, kind of like more
Mhm.
aha moments than other, like what is there a chapter in the book that
Yeah.
stands out?
So the one that I think I there's two that I really love. One is don't judge a book by its cover.
Mm-hmm.
Dot dot dot. And I literally put the dot 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 unless it's a book, right? Because we talked about the nuances. It's beyond race and gender, and I do this activity called the diversity iceberg, and it's the 20% that you can see on the top. There's so much under the surface, the 80%. And so I do this activity where I have people come up with 5 things that make them unique or shape their perspective or, things like that. People typically get hung up at 3. I don't know why that's the magic number, but they get 3 and they kind of stall out. And I say that's common from what I'm seeing, but you have definitively 5 things that make you unique and a whole slew more. But we're not trained to think like that
Right.
about ourselves at such depth. And so back to the assumptions. I make assumptions about people, or I assume that because they come from a certain part of the organization that I think I have them pegged. You're this. And then I talk to them and learn their story and especially their formative years, which what I would say like from childhood to maybe high school,
Yeah.
um, and learn what they look like and what their experiences is completely different.
Yeah.
And I've had to check myself and say, "Ooh, I went in with an assumption, I went in with a bias, and I have to just go in with an open mind to say, what is this person's story?" And then you find these connection points. There was one session that I did, and someone shared. They had hearing loss as a child to the point that they went for speech therapy, and they shared it at work because often people would think, oh, they're yelling at me. Why are they
Mm,
yelling at me? And this person said, I share because I'm not yelling. I literally cannot hear myself
mm,
well. And I think that's something we don't talk about that stuff at work, but it's very insightful, right?
sure.
You might make an assumption he's raising his voice because he's upset or he's this, and it's something completely different than you
Mhm.
assumed. And in that room, then someone else said, oh my gosh, I went through speech therapy as a kid too. And then I raised my hand and I said, so did I, because all third grade, I was with Mrs. Diamond for speech therapy because I couldn't say S's and R's because I had ear infections so often
Mm,
that it affected my ability to hear that. And so in one room, something that you typically don't talk about
yeah,
in a work environment, you find out, right? And I think that has been so powerful to see those connections, or we're talking about things. I talk about very openly my late diagnosis with ADHD, which leads into the other chapter that I love, the power of vulnerability. And the reason that I talk about my ADHD diagnosis and my family's what I call neurospiciness is because I don't want people to feel they're going through it alone. And I think things like that, especially things that have historically had stigmas attached to it, people don't talk about openly
yeah,
because and then it feels very isolating. You think I'm the only one going through this. Nobody understands what I'm going through. When I talk about these things, and I talk about my daughter and her struggle with mental health. She has depression, anxiety, and ADHD. She calls herself a triple threat, which I love.
I love that.
She's like taken it and owned it. Um, I talk about her very openly because I think either whether it's your own journey or someone else's journey that you're supporting a loved one through, in those times when it's roughest, you feel very alone. And so I talk about that. And I just shared, I was on another podcast, and before that, I was making a coffee, and between my ADHD and now my perimenopause slash probably full blown menopause, which we also don't talk about, by the way, I went to start a load of laundry, and the coffee machine you have to turn off when the cup is full. I come back and that thing is overflowed and all over the place. And I took a picture of it and I thought, you know what? I'm going to post this on LinkedIn and
Yeah,
say, this is where it goes the wrong way. And someone was, I know some people are like, you posted that on LinkedIn? Like that doesn't seem, I wouldn't do that. And I just said, the people that are responding are like, oh my gosh, I feel so seen. I feel,
mm,
oh my gosh, my brain does that too, or whatever. And I think that's been such a part of the journey, is being vulnerable to say, it ain't, my life is not perfect.
yeah,
Do I
yeah,
love my life? Yes. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Are there hard times and do I struggle? 100%.
yeah,
And because it connects people, it brings them out to say, and gives them I, I hate the word permission, but it gives them the permission to talk about it and feel it at work too.
yeah. Uh, vulnerability, yeah, does does a like a number of different things, right? It gives
Hmm.
you power if you're the one showing vulnerability.
Hmm.
It can deepen the connection between you and the person that you're sharing with, or the
Yeah.
people that you're sharing with, and it also gives the people that you're sharing with an opportunity to uh, express some vulnerability
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So it's something that even if it's similar,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
the speech therapy example, or if it's something different, it just gives people um a little more courage to share their thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Even if it's different, it's like, oh wow, that was pretty personal.
Hmm.
there's something that that I feel just as vulnerable about that I now I'm willing to share that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm surprised in these workshops that I do with the diversity iceberg activity because there has not been one person who opts out of the activity and doesn't share.
mm,
And maybe there's different levels of vulnerability and different depths that they're sharing to which they're sharing, but everybody gives some insight into what makes them tick or what motivates them or whatever. And I think tying it back to a work perspective, that is so, they might be sharing things from their personal life, but we are holistic people. We don't walk in the door that, and I talk about that in the book. We don't walk in the door and our personal life is left. I can't not mom
right.
when I'm at work. If my kids are struggling, I'm struggling, full stop.
Mm,
And that doesn't stop when I walk in the door of a
right.
office. And so I think that that is something, having an understanding for leaders of what their people, what shapes them, what it is
Mhm.
affecting them positively or negatively, I think is very insightful into how we work together. And then the work is better.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing you, like there'll be times where I'll send you a text, we're trying to confirm something, and I'll be like, you know what? Let me follow back up. Let me just
Thank you.
like I don't,
It's no, I need it.
but
I
but
need it.
but I'm, that's me too.
You're so good about that, though.
But someone else may feel a way, right?
Yeah.
Similar to the gentleman that's hard of hearing.
Mm-hmm.
You think, oh, this person doesn't want to be bothered with me, or I must be annoying them,
Yes.
or they're not,
Yeah.
and I need, I want to know who I'm dealing with. I want to know the people that I'm dealing with, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to know everything, but the way you communicate, um, your preferred all those things are important
Yes.
so that we can sort of meet each other,
Mm-hmm.
in the right spot, and that this minor thing doesn't become some major thing because of a miscommunication. And I think a lot of it starts with just vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously, in my book about networking, it's
Mm-hmm.
there's only a few ways to really build to build true like rapport, like more quickly, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you are a witness to that every day during these workshops when people
Yeah.
are communicating these things. Next thing you know, you're looking at the person that you've worked with for years maybe and never knew these things, and now all of a sudden you feel closer to them, let alone if
Yeah.
you walk into a room and someone you just met shares something, and you're like, wow, it
Mm-hmm.
can really um create bonds, really
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're allowing someone to see you, and you're giving them an opportunity to see you, and then if they respond in a certain way you feel seen, it's a win-win,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely. And I think we also make assumptions because we've known each other for a long time that we know everything. And that was challenged. There was a leader that brought me in to do this with her intact team. And she said, I've been working with these people for some of them 20, 25 years. She said, I challenge you to find something I don't know about them. And about the second person in, she just looks at me and I was like, challenge accepted. And she looked over at me and she said, oh my gosh, what is happening right now?
Yeah,
Because she was finding out new stuff about these people that she thought she knew so well. And I think that's the power of it, right?
yeah,
Continued curiosity
yeah.
over time and
It's we compartmentalize,
yeah.
we compartmentalize consciously, unconsciously,
Hmm.
and we just, yeah, we leave certain things in certain parts of our lives, and
Yeah.
that crossover can be really powerful.
Hmm.
Powerful. Um,
Absolutely.
I think this is a good place to stop.
I think so too. I can talk to you all day long.
I know,
Let's be
I know.
real. But
The curiosity, the acceptance of different points of view,
mhm.
the intentionality about sort of even your algorithm, right?
Yeah.
The things that we are spending time on.
Mhm.
We're on these phones. I'm by the way, I'm doing a little detox myself. I'm posting on social, but I'm not doing anything else right now
Yeah.
because I I need just, it's consumption. It's all
Yeah.
consumption.
Yeah.
We're talking about, it's holiday season. People are talking about the foods that they're eating, right? They're going to go on some reset and some sort of
Mhm.
detox, right? We're consuming information via the TV that we watch, our algorithm. We're
Mhm.
consuming our algorithm. We're consuming certain foods in the conversation, the people that we're around. We're consuming those things, and we should treat all those things. We should take them more serious than we do, because
Mhm.
it's all making an impact. Whether it's how we feel after eating, dairy, or whether
Mhm.
it's how we feel when we watch that person on that platform, right? And
Right.
it's like we have a choice. We
Mhm.
have a choice, and we need to be more mindful. And I think I was talking to someone recently about there's a book that I read not too long ago, when it comes to not just money, but giving of your time,
Mhm.
the fulfillment that you give, um, making your way towards being an ally means giving of your time, your thought, your
Mhm.
concern, and being able to get a sense of fulfillment in that way. I
Mhm.
think one person at a time,
Yeah.
one
Action.
one action at a time, one question at a time, one gesture at a time, is like
And
we're all making, well, we're not all, but many of us are making steps to really improve
mhm.
our lives and the lives around us. So kudos to
Yeah.
you and your continued allyship journey.
You. Thank you.
Where's the book?
On Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. There's a Kindle version if you're an e-reader. There's a physical copy
Yeah,
like you're holding up, Baxter. I've had many requests from people to do an audio. So that's next on my list for 2026 is to get an audio version out, because I know I do that for my ADHD. I listen to a book and I read it at the same time. It helps me solidify the information. But for those who are blind or having issues with vision or dyslexia, I want to support everybody as I can. So
yeah.
that's my goal in 2026 is getting that audio out.
I love it. Do you have a
Mm,
book close to you?
I do.
All right, let's. I'll take this for the. This will be the header when we post it on YouTube.
Okay.
Um, Dreaming in Color, an
Yes.
allyship journey. Erin, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for the
Thank you,
work that you do
Baxter.
each and every day, and just the person that you are, and
Thank you.
a wonderful, wonderful project. You should be very proud.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate all your support and our friendship. And it's been such a joy in 2025 to connect with you and be connected with you.
Yes, same, same. So, on behalf of Erin, I am Baxter E. For those who are watching or listening, just know that you are all capable.
Mm.
You just need to embrace your own frequency. And until next time, peace. All right.
Welcome into his brain. Welcome into his frequency. Enter at your own risk. Come be at peace with me. Ask them.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Please subscribe, share, and also hit that notification button as well. Thank you so much.
Financial literacy to authentic black